Have you ever been talking to someone and you're like, I wonder which of the 16 personalities they are? So I'm going to try to impart to you today how to spot the 16 personalities, how to figure out what someone else's type is. I'm also going to be presenting all this information chronologically, but that is not to suggest that when you are typing someone you need to go through in a specific order. What you're really doing is looking for what's popping out at me here, because sometimes it'll be obvious that someone's a feeler, but with someone else, that might not be obvious. You just go with what you can get. You can also use this on yourself. It's a little difficult to recognize the patterns in yourself, but it's a good way to help figure out your own type. Of course, if you're still trying to figure out your type and you'd like an outside perspective, I do offer a service where I give you my educated observations and opinion on which of the types you are. The link to that is down below. There are limited slots available. And one last disclaimer, because I love disclaimers. When you are typing people in your life, you don't need to tell them about it. If people are not really open to it, they don't like it, it's a little bit rude. If they ask you, hey, you're into that personality stuff, what do you think my type is? Go for it. But otherwise, just use these tools for your own development and getting along with others. First up, the trap you don't want to fall into is thinking that people can only do what their type says they can do. So for example, thinking that a thinking type cannot talk about emotion or the value of something or whatever. Everyone can talk about all of the different cognitive functions and they can do all of those things. Everyone does sensing and intuition, thinking and feeling. So what you got to do is pay attention to them and their patterns over time to figure out the preference, rather than just thinking, oh, I heard him say something about logic, must be a thinker. You never know. If you listen long enough, they might say some more stuff where it's clear that they prefer the feeling side. So keep your eyes and ears open. Don't rush to a conclusion just because someone says something one time. Another interesting tool to use is to think about how people could alternatively talk about something or react to something, because sometimes we just assume, oh, that person reacted that way because they're weird, but oftentimes it's related to type. For example, if you ask someone, why did you choose to go to this restaurant? They could answer, oh, because I like going there, because I've gone there many times. But what are some alternative things they could say? They could say, I wanted to go there because I've never been there and I like going to new places. Or they could say, I went there because it was the closest thing to my house. There are many different reasons why people might choose to do something. All right, the first major dichotomy to look for in typing, what it really is the types that have thinking or feeling as their dominant function, which are the EJs and IPs, and the types that have intuition or sensing as their dominant function, which are the IJs and EPs. That's a major differentiator between those two sets of types, and that'll help you really narrow things down if you can figure that out. So how do you do that? Well, here's the thing, is that the dominant function is the opposite of the inferior function, which is like the weak point for a type, right? And those are way out of balance. And the things that are way out of balance are the things that a person will get most anxious and worried and focused in on. The types that are thinking or feeling dominant, the EJs and IPs, those are like decision-making functions, right? So that's the thing that they're gonna be most honed in on, the decisions that they and everyone else are making. So who makes decisions? People make decisions. So a lot of their language will revolve around the people and what they are doing and why did they make this decision, what's going on with them. The IJs and the EPs, on the other hand, they have intuition and sensing, which are the perceiving functions. So they are more focused on like what is happening, sort of like the information, the things, the systems, and that is what they are going to be more focused in on. Now, of course, everyone's going to talk about the people and the decisions from time to time, and everyone's going to talk about the information and the things from time to time, but you got to focus in on what do they talk about more often than not. And this is where you can use that tool I talked about earlier of thinking about alternative answers, like why did this person react this way, and focus on this thing rather than this thing. As a very basic example, if you just ask someone, how was your day? What did you do today? you might find that the EJs and IPs, they will bring up stuff about other people. Oh, I talked to this person, I did this thing, this other person at work wanted this from me. Whereas an IJ or EP might say, oh man, there was a mound of paperwork, I had to organize all this stuff, it was no good. This project, all the numbers were wrong. So you see the difference here? And note that the IJs and EPs could mention people, the IPs and EJs could talk about the paperwork and all that stuff, but over time, look for the pattern of what they focus in on more often than not. Next up, you look at which of the 4 temperaments are they. So a few weeks ago, I talked about what are the 4 temperaments. You can check out that in the card above my head. So once you've split them apart into, do they look at things mostly? Are they an IJ or EP? Or do they look at the people mostly, IP or EJ? You've got only 2 temperaments on each side that you're looking at, right? And those temperaments are pretty opposed to each other. So an IJ and an EP are very different from each other. An IP and an EJ are very different from each other. So if you're like, okay, I think this person focuses in mostly on people, they're either an EJ or an IP, then you ask yourself a few questions. Does this person seem to be primarily focused on the decisions outside of them and what other people are doing and how everyone else can get on the same page and we can all work together, which would be more of an EJ? Or are they focused more on like, what are my decisions? What do I think is good? What do I think is the correct path? You're kind of looking for, are they looking outward to get their bearings, looking at other people for that? Or do they just look at their own inner compass? So that's how you can tell generally between those 2 temperaments. Then on the other side, if you are like, okay, this person is looking mostly at things, you got to figure out, are they an IJ or an EP? And the IJs are very much about like, let me keep things limited. Let me hone things down. Let me whittle things down to this small amount of information that I'm dealing with. And if I have to answer a question or something, I'm going to go back to the old known information I have. I'm going to keep that organized and together. Whereas the EPs, they're like, no, I want more. I want new. I want endless possibilities. I want to find the exceptions to the pattern. I don't want to stick to the pattern I know. So as you can see, very different from each other. All right, we got a bunch more coming up, but first let's support this channel and see if YouTube would like to show a commercial. Thanks for sitting through that. And if you're enjoying this video, hit the thumbs up button. All right, let's move on to the middle letters. So N or S, T or F, which I've talked about before in videos about how do the 16 personalities see the world and how do the 16 personalities make decisions. Because that's basically what we're talking about. How do they see the world? How do they perceive things? And how do they make decisions? How are they judging things? So first, N versus S, intuition versus sensing. What you're gonna see is that the sensing types, the people who prefer sensing, they feel like they need to talk about the details and the specifics a lot of times. The sensing types want to make sure that what they are communicating is clear and concrete. They don't want to kind of leave things up in the air for you to have to guess about it. They don't like to give just kind of this general overview of things. They like to give you all of the specifics. But you got to watch out, okay? Because everyone has to talk about specifics every once in a while. Everyone has to give examples and be concrete in their language depending on the situation. Likewise, everyone will have to give overviews and use that more abstract language every once in a while. So don't just hone in on hearing one time someone said specifics, or even lots of times. What you have to look at is overall, over time, what do they want to do first? What do they go to? What is their gut reaction? To go with the specifics, you might be dealing with a sensor. Okay, then with the intuitives, they like to deal with the overviews. They like to avoid getting specific. They don't want to get into the nitty-gritty. The intuitives also like to use, oftentimes, a lot of metaphors and symbolic language, but don't get too focused in on that because there are many instances of intuitives who like rarely talk in that way, but it is sort of a giveaway if they're always using analogies for things. Like instead of talking about the actual thing, they're talking about something else that's like that thing. And also the intuitives kind of lack clarity. They kind of want you to fill things in. I mean, you listen to my videos, I struggle to give you examples of things. And you can see that my responsibility as an intuitive is to sort of give you this abstract, top-down overview of things, and then later I'm like, oh crap, I guess I should throw in a specific so you can understand this, so it's clear, so you don't have to guess. Intuitives also feel generally comfortable with guessing, because that's what intuition is, looking at the pattern and then guessing about what's going to happen next. So then we move on to thinking versus feeling, which is like, how do people make judgments? How do they make their decisions? So the thinkers, their language makes it seem like the whole world to them is some kind of puzzle to be put together. The way that they approach things is trying to figure out, how does it work? How does it make sense? For people who prefer thinking, they're looking at things in life as problems to be solved. What are the goals that we are trying to achieve? How do we get there? And when making decisions, the most important thing for thinkers is, like, how do we just get it to work? How do we get to that goal that we're trying to get to? The feelers, on the other hand, it's not just emotion, okay? I mean, that's part of it, but the feelers are looking at the world as, how are things valued? Do people like this or not like this? Is it good or bad? Is it valuable, not valuable? The feelers are focused in on what matters, which is, a value judgment. What is the thing that we should be caring about here? When solving a problem, it's like, how can we do what is good? Not necessarily like what's just gonna work, how do we just get results, but how do we make sure that what we do is good, makes people feel good, is gonna have a good emotional outcome? Or how do we just do what is the most important thing to do, what really matters to people, or what matters to me? So far in this video, I've talked about like how to pick up on people's preferences, but the flip side of that is to try to pay attention to if any non-preference jumps out at you, because a lot of times when people are trying to do the opposite of their preference, it gets a little awkward, they might get frustrated, upset, so on and so forth. So look out for that as well. If an intuitive is forced into the sensory world and is forced to pay attention to details and like the facts, they will get kind of upset about that. If a sensor type is put in a position where things aren't clear and they kind of have to guess, they might get irritated. Thinkers oftentimes will try to avoid any kind of emotional issue, and a lot of times when they're talking about emotions, their language will actually be more like, how can we solve this? And the feelers will get very uncomfortable when put in a situation where they have to make a decision that's based more on like what's going to get results rather than what's going to make me or others happy. Feelers are also kind of sensitive to being perceived as dumb, I think, because of that. And you could also even look at this non-preference thing in terms of like the temperaments. So for instance, if you have an IJ and they're forced to be like gathering in new information and dealing with keeping possibilities open, etc., they're going to really struggle. Likewise, if you have an IP type who suddenly has to think about what everyone else is feeling, they're going to be like, well, why? I don't want to do that. If an EP type is forced to put some control over their surroundings and rein in all the possibilities and be limited, they're going to be like, I don't want to do that. And the EJs, they don't like it when they're having to just make decisions on their own for themselves without anyone else to kind of bounce their ideas off of. So taking all those different things we've talked about so far, if you come into contact with somebody, you can start to pick out things as they are presented to you. So you're talking to someone and you realize that they're talking in a lot of analogies and they're keeping things kind of vague and top-down view. You're like, okay, this is an intuitive. And then they start talking about the problems they're having with their car and how they're freaked out about that and they don't know what's going on. The car keeps breaking down. No one can fix it. And you're like, okay, this guy is really fixated on things. So then you can be like, okay, we're dealing with either an IJ or an EP over here. So already you've kind of limited things down a lot. And then through the course of the conversation, this person talks about how they really just like keeping their options open and they really don't like it when they have to like have a routine and they have to like stick to the rules, etc. And you're like, okay, sounds like some kind of EP here. And then they're going on and on and on about all the cool stuff that they like and how it makes them happy and what matters to them, what's, you know, really important to them. And you're like, okay, I think this person is an ENFP. Now, that seems really easy, right? It's not, it's rarely gonna be that easy, but I thought I would try to put in an example at the end, awkwardly. Let me know what other things you would like to learn about the 16 personalities. Put it in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Watch another video right here or the whole darn playlist right here. And until next time, stay cool and attractive.